Midnight whispers through the air, lonely shadows everywhere, golden lights begin to fade, memories we never saved. Silent glances, stolen time, fading like a distant rhyme. Every heartbeat feels so slow in this soft and quiet glow. Through the smoke, I see the past, moments we thought would last. Vintage jazz night vibes, where every fragile dream survives. Through the dark, love still arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes, feel the tone, even when you're all alone. Hearts will learn to still survive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to cry like a sweet and sad goodbye. Piano gently leads the way through the night that wants to stay. Every chord a hidden truth, every sound recalls our youth. Soft emotions intertwine, lost between the space and time. Every tear becomes a song where the broken hearts belong. Vintage jazz night vibes, where every fragile dream survives. Through the dark, love still arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Let the rhythm heal the pain like a soft and gentle rain. Hope and memories revive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Vintage slowly fills the night, turning dark, love fills arrive. Vintage jazz light vibes, infinite the stopped reprise. Every lonely heart can rise in these vintage skies. Old street lamps begin to glow, painting gold on fallen snow. Quiet footsteps pass me by, like a long forgotten sigh. Empty tables, silent chairs, lonely hearts and whispered prayers. Every second feels so still, time is bending to our will. Through the haze the past appears, washing slowly through my tears. Vintage jazz night vibe, where every memory survives. Through the dark the truth arrives. In these vintage jazz night vibes, soft and tender melody, drifting like a gentle breeze. Every lonely heart can thrive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone in my teeth plays a song of you and me. Piano softly leads the way, guiding dreams that want to stay. Every chord a quiet flame, calling out your hidden name. Shadows moving slow and deep, guard the promises we keep. Every tone becomes a sign, love is slipping out of time. Vintage jazz night vibes, where every memory survives. Through the dark the truth thrive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and feel the flow. Let the gentle rhythm glow. Hope and broken dreams revive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Silver moonlight softly falls, dancing slowly through the halls. Every whisper, every sigh turns the silence into rhyme. Vintage jazz night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Even fragile hearts can rise in these vintage jazz night vibes. Hold the music deep inside. Let the hidden fear subside. Love and dreams will both survive in these vintage jazz night
Dim lights on velvet walls, midnight gently calls my name. Quiet echoes through the hall, nothing ever feels the same. Crystal glasses softly shine, like the tears I try to hide. Every melody reminds of the love we left behind. Through the smoke I see your face, time we never can replace. Jazz night vibes, where the lonely heart confides. Every broken dream survives in these vintage jazz night vibes, softly playing in the dark. Every note ignites a spark, memories we can't deny in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone in midnight blue cries a song of sweet regret. Every tone returns to you, feelings I cannot forget. Piano keys begin to glow, like a story long untold. Every chord is feeling slow, every touch is made of gold. In the silence love remains, dancing slowly through the pain. Vintage jazz, night vibes, where the lonely heart confides. Every broken dream survives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and drift away. Let the music softly stay. Hearts will always still collide in these vintage jazz night vibes. Moonlight falling on the floor, whispers asking me for more. Every sound becomes a sign. Love is lost but still divine. Vintage jazz night vibes, underneath nostalgic skies. Even broken hearts can fly in these vintage jazz night vibes. Hold the rhythm, feel the night. Everything will be alright. Let the soul be open wide in these vintage jazz night vibes.
Fading lights on empty streets, lonely rhythm softly beats through the haze of midnight air. I can feel you everywhere. Quiet echoes in my mind, fragments of a love we left behind. Every step a memory, drifting through eternity. In the smoke your shadow stays, lost between the yesterglaze. Vintage jazz night vibe, where every lonely dream survives through the dark the truth arise in these vintage jazz night vibes, softly playing deep inside, where the silent hearts confide. Every feeling comes alive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to cry like a tender last goodbye. Piano whispers bittersweet, guiding every fragile beat. Every note becomes a flame, calling softly out your name. Time stands still within the sound as the world keeps spinning round. Every tone reveals the past. Nothing beautiful can last. Vintage jazz night vibes, where every lonely dream survives. Through the dark, the truth arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and drift away. Let the music gently stay. Hope and memories revive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Silver moonlight softly gleams, shining through forgotten dreams. Every sigh and every tear turns the silence crystal clear. Vintage jazz night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Even broken hearts can rise in these vintage jazz night vibes. Hold the moment, feel the night. Everything will feel so right. Love and music both survive in these vintage jazz night vibes.
gently fall, golden shadows on the wall, whispers drifting through the air, silent secrets everywhere, crystal glasses catching light, lost emotions in the night. Every heartbeat starts to sway as the blue notes softly play. In the smoke our eyes align, moments fading out of time. Vintage jazz night vibes, where the hidden feeling thrives. Every silent spark ignites in these vintage jazz night vibes. Soft and slow the rhythm moves through the heart and through the blues. Every dream begins to rise in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone in velvet tone makes this lonely night our own. Piano paints a fragile scene somewhere lost in between. Every touch of every chord feels like something we adore. Shadows dancing in the glow, moving gently, feeling slow. Through the dark your presence stays like a song that softly plays. Vintage jazz night vibes, while the hidden feeling thrives. Every silent spark ignites in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Let the moment spin around. Hearts are beating deep inside in these vintage jazz night vibes. Midnight stories left untold, wrapped in melodies of gold. Every note a soft surprise, shimmering before our eyes. Vintage jazz night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Every secret still survives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Hold the rhythm, feel the night. Everything will feel so right. Love and music intertwine in these vintage jazz night Soft moonlight upon the floor, shadows drift
beside the door. Quiet voices fade away while the blue notes start to play. Lonely glasses softly shine, moments lost between the time. Every heartbeat feels the rhyme of a love we left behind. Through the night the feeling grows like a song nobody knows. Vintage jazz, night vibes, where every secret still survives. Through the dark, the heart arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Gentle rhythm, smooth and slow, let the silent feelings flow. Dreams and memories revive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to sigh like a soft and sweet goodbye. Piano paints a velvet sky where the broken wishes lie. Every note becomes a spark shining softly in the dark. Time is moving oh so slow in this warm nostalgic glow. Every sound becomes a sign love is dancing out of time. Vintage jazz night vibes, where every secret still survives. Through the dark, the heart arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and feel air, music floating everywhere. Hearts awaken deep inside in these vintage jazz night vibes. Golden echoes in the room, chasing away silent gloom. Every whisper, every tone makes this night feel like a home. Vintage jazz, night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Every lonely soul can fry when these vintage jazz night vibes hold the moment, feel alive. Let the hidden dreams arrive. Love and hope will both survive in these vintage jazz night vibes. glowing amber light, silhouettes in black and white, lonely echoes fill the air, broken dreams are everywhere, gentle footsteps fade away, while the blue notes start to play. Every memory returns, like a candle slowly burns. Through the haze I feel the past, moments never meant to last. Vintage jazz night vibes, where the lonely heart survives. Every truth and tear collides in these vintage jazz night vibes, slowly drifting through the sound, lost but somehow still be found. Hope and love can still revive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to cry, like a soft and sweet goodbye. Piano whispers deep and low, secrets only night can know. Every chord a fragile spark, lighting shadows in the dark. Time is moving far too slow in this warm nostalgic glow. Every sound becomes a sign, love is dancing out of time. Vintage jazz night vibes, where the lonely heart survives. Every truth and tear collides in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes and feel the flow. Let the quiet feelings grow. Dreams and memories arrive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Moonlight falling on the floor, hearts are asking something more. Every whisper, every sigh turns the silence into rhyme. Vintage jazz night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Even broken dreams can fly in these vintage jazz night vibes.
Night vibes.
City lights are glowing slow. Midnight finds me all alone. Soft reflections on the glass. Moments drifting as they pass. Gentle footsteps on the floor echo through the night once more. Every heartbeat starts to rhyme with a rhythm lost in time. Silent words we never say fade like smoke and drift away. Vintage jazz night vibes where every lonely heart survives. Through the haze the truth arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Soft and low the music plays, carrying forgotten days. Love appears without disguise in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to cry like a distant lullaby. Piano whispers bittersweet, guiding every fragile beat. Shadows dancing on the blue, every note reminds of you. Timeless stories softly told, warming hearts against the cold. In the dark, emotions stay, even when we walk away. Vintage jazz night vibes where every lonely heart survives. Through the haze the truth arrives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes, feel the air, music floating everywhere. Dreams awake and come alive in these vintage jazz night vibes. Love the moment slowly flow. There's so much we never show. Every sound becomes a sign. Love and loss so intertwined. Vintage jazz night vibes underneath nostalgic skies. Hope and memories collide in these vintage jazz night vibes. Hold me through the quiet night. Every feel where feel alright. Hearts will learn to still survive.
In these vintage jazz night vibes.
Golden lights are fading low, whispers drift where soft winds blow, velvet shadows on the wall, midnight starts to slowly call, lonely hearts in candle glow, stories only night can know, every note begins to sway, taking all my doubts away. In the smoke, the silence sings, broken dreams on fragile wings, vintage jazz night vibes, where the rhythm softly cries. Every melody survives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes, feel the sound, let your soul just drift around. Hearts awaken, love revives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Saxophone begins to weep secrets that the night will keep. Slow piano guides the mood through the darkened solitude. Memories in every tone remind me I'm not alone. Every chord just feels so right, dancing gently with the night. Through the haze, emotions rise, hidden truth behind the eyes. Vintage jazz night vibes, where the rhythm softly cries. Every melody survives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Close your eyes, feel the sound, let your soul just drift around. Hearts awaken, love revives in these vintage jazz night vibes. Time slows down in silver air, music floating everywhere, every breath a sweet disguise, lost inside these lullabies. Vintage jazz night vibes, underneath nostalgic